Foxx.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Lehman, is crime increasing in America?
It's hard to give a yes or no answer. I would say certain categories of crime, homicide, car theft, shootings, pretty uniformly over the past 3 years. Other categories of crime, plausibly over the past year. It's a question of how that compares to baseline. And then certain cities dramatically across the board. So broadly, yes.
Are there particular parts of America that are seeing larger increases in crime?
I think in general, crime is more common in large cities. I would debate the reason why. Some of it's concentration of population, but yes.
Okay. Do you have an idea why crime is increasing faster in these areas?
I think there are a couple of factors. There are, perhaps there's an easy answer many people are looking for. I don't think there are easy answers. Certainly policy is not helping. Some of the, not all of these jurisdictions have reduced police capacity or have increased restrictions on policing. That doesn't help the problem. I think there's a longer term issue with the capacity of our criminal justice system since the early days of 2020 across the board. Certainly in those areas, though, policy is not helping.
So for years, committee Democrats have called for the defunding of the police. Has that made for good policy, and has that reduced crime?
I'll note that many jurisdictions sort of tried to defund the police and weren't successful because it's overwhelmingly unpopular. What I can say in the aggregate, certainly jurisdictions that moved forward with reducing police funding are experiencing large increases in crime. More generally, one of the few criminological findings that we have that's pretty overwhelming in its certainty is that more cops reduce crime. So all else equal, you spend less on cops, you would expect crime to go up.
So when you just mentioned when policing budgets are cut, there seems to be an increase in crime. You said more cops, less crime. So when police budgets are cut, resulting in fewer officers patrolling the communities, then I think we could say the areas become less safe. Is that correct?
All else equal, certainly.
Okay. So in your writings, you've mentioned that America's streets are likely under-policed. Can you explain a little more what you mean by that?
Certainly, that draws on a couple of different references. One is good estimates of America's police to population ratio relative to other developed nations. We underperform the rest of the OECD on this measure, or much of the rest of the OECD on this measure. Another is that for the amount of crime cost, the cost associated with the level of crime that police would produce, the socially optimal, below the socially optimal level of spending on police. And a third one is that across a variety of indicators, we have a lower police per capita ratio than we did about 2008 was the peak, before the Great Recession, which suggests to me, given the rise in crime, but the stalling out of the crime decline at that point, we could be buying more safety than we currently are.
Okay. I assume there's a connection between something you've written, fewer cops also mean more police conduct. Could you explain that phenomenon?
Do you mean misconduct?
It says conduct, or maybe misconduct.
I would assume misconduct. Yeah, all else equal, I would expect that fewer cops means more burden on the remaining cops. There's a fixed quantity of crime. In fact, fewer cops means more crimes. The quantity of crime goes up. Quantity of man hours. There's a strong empirical relationship between stress, burden, overwork, and the risk that a police officer will engage in use of force. The police officer will be complained about or reported. Fewer cops puts more strain.
And how could Congress help law enforcement personnel better fight crime, if there's a way other than putting more money in?
Look, the first way is putting more money in. I regret to tell the representative, which is, policing in America is highly local. Congress has basically three things it can do. The federal government has three things it can do. Thing one is spend money. Thing two is coordinate information sharing, encourage the sharing of expertise and best practices. Thing three is fix data and data sharing. As we talked about briefly, the FBI's hate crime reporting is a mess. This is a subset of the fact that all crime reporting in America is a massive mess. I'm happy to talk about this later. but it's a huge issue for getting things done in crime prevention generally and hate crime prevention specifically.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield back.